What's going on, guys? It's Cutie Paintball, and today I want to go over servicing your engines. Typically, with a lot of the markers that I receive, they are improperly lubed, and today I just kind of want to show proper maintenance, as they're usually overly, or they have excess lube, which ends up just getting blowback and going through the breech, down the barrel, through some of the ports between the halves of the body. I mean, it's way too much. I mean, as you can see in some of these pictures here, it's unnecessary. So today we're going to focus on, I just decided to choose some popular engines. We have the IV core, the Infinity Drive, and the Reflex engine from the Onslaught. Generally speaking, these are pretty quick engines. This one's the fastest, and this one's a relatively middle ground one. But just kind of going off of like popularity, I just kind of wanted to cover these. Personally, I like to service the markers after every day of play, which means breaking down the engine, wiping it down, getting all the debris and dirt off of it, and reapplying a nice light layer of lube over all the dynamic O-rings, just to preserve the life of the engine, and also extending possibly the life of the O-rings and such, which are the wear items that you'll see. So let's kind of just jump into it. Should be a relatively straightforward video. Today we're going to be using just Dow 33. People make a big deal about this stuff, or about what lubes they use. I use Dow 33, just plain Dow 33 or PE's lube, all year round. I don't get caught up in the specific types of lubes, like the thin or thicker layers, or thicker type of lubes. One thing to note: avoid all lubes that are petroleum based, as they will eventually eat plastic components away. As you'll see, a lot of these engines have like a valve nose here, which is plastic. If you leave petroleum on there long enough, it will turn to jelly. So that is just some advice. So if you see, like, what's that lube called? So if you see like Ultra Silk, I would personally avoid it. It's not going to do you any good. You may get some really nice results at first, but long term, not worth it at all. All right, so let's start off with the IV core. Remove the can. Now we're just going to do a basic maintenance. We're not going to get too deep into these, just because it's not entirely necessary. Just going to wipe all these down. The valve tip here. I recently serviced this, so I'm not too worried about that. But that is considered a dynamic O-ring back here. All right, so we'll first start off with the valve here, the sealing O-ring here. Now, as you can see, it's not even like a pea-sized amount. It's just getting a little bit to cover my finger. As you can see, it goes a long way. So just kind of evenly spread it out, just a nice thin layer of lube. I see it all the time. You don't need to cover this in lube. There's no contact. We're just focusing on dynamic seals right now. Now, because we lube that up, where the bolt makes contact with it is in here, and that will be nice and lubed with the lube that's on there, right? Now, the next seal, this is the sail O-ring here. You don't necessarily need to put a lot on here either. Just a slight layer. When it seals up against the can here. And we have one seal here at the tip of the bolt. Now, just again, not too much. As you can see, it goes a long way. Just a thin layer, that's all it needs. You can get a little bit more again and just put on the bolt tip. Now, if you were to over lube this bolt tip or the seal here, all this lube will eventually just get shot out the face of the bolt. There you go. Typically, I also see a bunch of lube placed on these O-rings, these sealing O-rings, or on the bolt, which can make it easier for the bolt to be removed. You don't need to put a lot on there if you're having issues taking out the bolt. I find with the IV core, it really doesn't need any of this, but just some residual lube and you're kind of good to go, right? So that's the IV core. Really, really simple. If you're over lubing to prevent a leak, you probably need to replace some O-rings, or maybe it was like I mean, at worst, it's a poorly machined part. But typically, it's just an O-ring. So don't overdo it. Usually when I'm doing testing and I'm trying to figure out a leak, I usually take off all the lube, as the markers should function in testing, like, and should cycle without it. Alright, so IV core is done. Let's take a look at the prime, or the infinity drive. Now, a seal like this is just purely sealing the threads up. That's all it is. Another seal around the valve at the nose. Wipe down any excess lube. Now, this is pretty similar to the IV core. It just has a fixed valve. The C5 engine, the Clone 5 engine, is most similar to the IV core with a breach sensing valve. Alright, so again, all of it's wiped down, nice and clean, no debris, no dirt. Start off with the valve. Add just a thin layer. No need to lube that up. Take the bolt. Just a thin layer around the sail. Just a little bit on the bolt tip. Not too much. Kind of check the fitment there. I put X rings in here. So there's like a little cavity in the profile of the X's for lube. So you can actually go longer without needing to service it. But like I said, I still service it after every day of play. Now there's a seal all the way in the end of this, or in the center of the keg here, which seals up around the base of the bolt here. So again, just a little bit, just kind of cover the inside of the keg of that O-ring. Probably a little bit more. It's not much. As you can see, there's a little bit of some of the lube popped off the seal here. Just can wipe that off. It's just the bolt tip. All right, infinity drive done. Now the Reflex engine. I actually haven't taken this apart. I just received this Onslaught. I know this thing was absolutely murdered with lube before. So let's just kind of take a look at it and see what's going on with it. With the case of this engine, you may need a Allen here. I'm trying to get to the shut off here. So you kind of need to take off the bolt tip. Unfortunately with this bolt tip there's no flat edge here. So I just put like a thin Allen through the holes. Make sure not to damage this. Just give me some leverage. Oh well, you can see all the lube here, the excess lube. This doesn't want to come apart. Need some grip. You'll typically find me using the bottom of a tech mat for extra leverage, or friction in this case. So there we go. So now we got the bolt tip apart. So you can see there's some wear on the tip here, meaning that there's probably dirt in the breech during a lot of cycling. Have some cotton swabs on hand during these, just to kind of get in, to remove all the lube that does not need to be there, and to access some of the seals, like in the shutoff here. Now, if you guys aren't aware, the Reflex engine is a bit different than the original Insight engine, to allow for another O-ring in the shutoff so that it was a little bit more reliable. Now, this brass piece just kind of pops out. Just kind of carefully push it through. Kind of remove the excess there. I don't know if you guys kind of see it. I don't know if the camera's going to pick it up, but it's a bit brown actually. So it's all cleaned up. Now the shutoff, or where the ram goes with the bolt, sits all the way back here, and there's a few O-rings back there. So just, again, with the cotton swab, just kind of get in there, wipe it down.
Yeah, push this back in. Not sure why it's not snapping this time. It's alright.
Seems like the shutoff is being a little finicky to get in. As the O-ring kind of seals around this lip here, I'm just gonna add a little bit of lube to try to help persuade it. Should just typically just snaps right in. Interesting. So this should be a number 19. All right, let's try inserting this one in. Just a little bit of residue on the O-ring. Fits perfectly. Let's try to snap this in now. The shutoff fits a lot easier now. So I think that was an improperly fitting O-ring. We have shutoff in. Seems to be okay now. Now the bolt speed of the Reflex engine and Insight engine, it's pretty quick. So it ends up displacing a lot of lube with the high bolt speed. So we'll apply a little bit more than I would normally put on. Now, to kind of lube up the shutoff here, you want to apply lube to the back of the ram shaft here. And that will seal the O-rings in the shutoff in the brass portion here. The back of the bolt, you can apply a little bit back here as this interacts with the seal at the tip here. You just put a little bit of residual lube on the face of the bolt. Not much. No, this doesn't have to be as tight as it was before. Just has to be on. Okay. So we have a nice smooth action here, and we should be good to go. Reinstall the back cap here. There we go. Oh, missing one O-ring here. There we go. And that concludes how to service your engines. If you guys have any questions, leave them down below, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. As always, I want to thank you guys for watching. Some of you guys have asked if I had any kind of merch, and well, it's not really merch, but I have some stickers. This is a relatively small test batch and are priced to help support the channel. 100% of the support will be reinvested, and I'm hopeful it will turn into giveaways. For more information, just follow me on Instagram at QD_paintball. Thanks for listening, guys. That alone is greatly appreciated.